We love to talk about Ubisoft. Well, here we have some other news. It's trouble in paradise.
This isn't just a story about video games. It's a story about family. Specifically, the Gilmo family. They are the family who...
Again, they're taking over the company. Nobody likes them. Come on, hire someone new.
Hostile takeover, and they will do almost anything to avoid losing another. And that has defined everything going on with Ubisoft in the year of 2025, and it will define the future. All eyes have been on Assassin's Creed Shadows, and for good reason, because if it completely blew in terms of sales, they would be in a lot of trouble. But AC Shadows is not where the real action was. But don't worry, we found the action, and you're going to get it today. You see, 2025 saw the Gilmos face down hostile investors, it saw them pull off corporate skullduggery with their friends at Tencent, and lock their family name into Ubisoft's future for good. They're going to keep Ubisoft alive and under their control, even if it's at the expense of their staff, some of their investors, and their studios. All good stories need a beginning, and if I did the true beginning, it would involve, well, the Gilmo brothers and farm machinery. So let's not do that, and I'll start in 2024, because it was supposed to be Ubisoft's glorious return. It was not. They accidentally started the Stop Killing Games movement because they delisted the crew, so, oops, domino theory. And between that and years of disappointment, they've lost the goodwill of their audience near entirely. X-Defiant and Star Wars Outlaws were supposed to turn everything around, but X-Defiant flopped so hard that Ubisoft quickly killed it, and Outlaws did not land
that was quick.
Audiences or for the balance sheet. They did try to fix it, but the damage was done. And all this left Ubisoft with no choice. Now, they had already laid off 1,200 people across the year, 3,000 since 2022, but they couldn't just save money. They would actually have to do this bizarre thing that businesses are supposed to do called making money. And to make money, AC Shadows had to work. And throughout all of this, they had activist investors laying the groundwork to force the Gilmo family out of leadership entirely. Let's talk about the activist investors. Now, I know that whenever you hear activist, you may think, Greenpeace. This is Greenpeace and PETA, but investors. No, that is not what an activist investor is. Don't worry, we'll get to an explanation of all of this. So, because of everything I covered in their absolutely shit 2024, 25 started off with a second delay to Assassin's Creed Shadows, one where Ubisoft doubled down on killing season passes and gave their first expansion away for...
I mean, that was kind of huge. It shouldn't be huge, but for Ubisoft, that was huge. Was it well executed? No. Fuck no.
Free to all pre-order people. The delay was partially to improve performance, and it was partially to avoid getting bodied by Monster Hunter, which itself really should have delayed for the sake of performance, but wasn't able to because of arcane corporate reporting reasons that we covered in a bunch of other videos. But at the time, there was a concession made to investors. This happened right as they delayed Shadows. You see, advisors were brought in to recommend ways to, quote, unlock the value potential of our assets. So they basically said that at the same time that they said they'd delay Shadows. And the translation to the layperson is
it's such bullshit. You know straight away. It's bullshit.
Basically, we brought in people to value everything we've got, work out how much shit we can sell, how many staff we can yeet into the bin, and find a whole bunch of ways to become more profitable. Now, all of this was said for a reason. It was said to keep activist investors like AJ Investments at bay. Activist investor basically just means an investor who will open a position at a company with a very strong thesis of how that company should change. They will often then advocate for that change. They will try to rally other shareholders behind them, and ultimately, they will want to do something like lead a leveraged buyout, that kind of thing. And don't worry, all that will feature in this story. But all of these investors were causing a bunch of noise. That noise was not good for the Gilmos, and that noise actually happened even as staff were striking against layoffs at Leamington, Dusseldorf, Stockholm, and Ubisoft Reflections. Basically, in this period of time, you had the activist investors kicking up a storm, Shadows not releasing yet, and the Gilmo family in a sticky position. They essentially had to play for time and hope against hope that Shadows would sell. But as of now, the puzzle isn't complete. There's one more piece, and that piece is Tencent. They were working in the background to find a way to support the company, and at the time, speculation was that they may just purchase Ubisoft outright. Now, that Tencent would be deeply involved really wasn't a surprise to any deep Ubisoft followers. You know, all 7 of us. Tencent rescued the Gilmo family from a hostile takeover from Vivendi during the late 2010s. But at the time, the rumor mill was suggesting Tencent could just acquire Ubisoft outright.
I mean, I think it would be better if Vivendi bought them. I mean, wasn't that like a sort of good company?
Well, that was a bit weird because it would have been contractually difficult. In order to actually do that, they would have to get extremely creative in how they do business shenanigans. And that type of creativity is the type of creativity that can get a company in trouble. And that's where AJ Investments come in. You see, they allege that Ubisoft had been secretly meeting with Microsoft, EA, and Tencent about the sale of intellectual property, and that this was all a pattern. A pattern including hidden deals with Saudi Arabia for Assassin's Creed Mirage DLC, and even alleging that delaying Assassin's Creed Shadows was done to keep the stock price low. You know, potentially to facilitate a good price for the people who would be acquiring the company. Now, most of this was just posturing, and AJ released the statement to IGN specifically to rile up public outrage. They knew it would draw attention, and that attention would give them some leverage. This is especially with a lot of discourse going on and trending after a minor but controversial Japanese politician linked the game to concerns about shrine damage from tourists. Ubisoft got ahead of that one by making shrine objects indestructible in-game, which is an interesting little move because I believe Ghost of Tsushima also had destructibility stuff around the shrines, but, well, people were more willing to like that game, it seems. But with all this online hate only getting hotter,
it just goes to show that people are hopping on what's the hot thing in the gaming space. Oh, a lot of people are hating on that. Let me join in. A lot of people are hating on that. Well, let me join in on that. It's so stupid. People have no idea what they're fucking complaining about. And the main problem is the companies is just saying, okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna fix it. That's the main issue. What the fuck? Like, I didn't even know that you could do that in Ghost. And I don't remember anyone complaining about that. They definitely didn't remove it.
Well, harassment started to happen a bit more towards the people actually making Shadows. Ubisoft then followed Square Enix and Sega's lead by announcing they would pursue legal action against any proven harassment. But this was also the time when the company's future started to take shape. And that's because the Gilmos and Tencent finally found their corporate loophole, one that could protect them from the likes of AJ Investments. And for this loophole to work, all they would have to do is launch Shadows well. Here's the bit that's shocking to many. Against all expectations, they did with Shadows. And that's because when you set aside the COVID-boosted AC Valhalla, Shadows is actually the second highest day one sales in franchise history. It got positive reviews, almost no performance issues. Some say it was one of the best versions of the Assassin's Creed RPG formula, and apparently for some, the dual protagonist.
It is good. The dual protagonist shit is just bitch shit. It's Assassin's Creed, come on. Also, it's so big. Holy shit. I think it's the biggest Assassin's Creed game to date. It's so much to do. Maybe not as big as Valhalla, but I don't know. It's huge. It's so much to do. Fuck.
Were good, and that the stealth actually was good, real stealth. Yasuke existing to just smash things about with a big katana actually meant that the stealth was freed up to be a stealth game. And it seems that this stuff worked in a way that in Outlaws things just didn't work. All that really matters is that the initial launch was good enough for the Gilmos to achieve their goals. So because of all this, the Gilmos were
optimization and just good characters, good script, just make a good game.
actually able to save themselves from their investors by just sidestepping them entirely with Tencent. You see, here's the deal. Tencent literally were not allowed to buy any more shares
Quality before quantity.
in Ubisoft. So they didn't buy shares in Ubisoft. Instead, they invested 1.6 billion euro into a newly created subsidiary for just 25% ownership of said subsidiary. Staff eventually voted to call this group Vantage Studios, and it would own the teams behind Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six, whilst also licensing the IP from Ubisoft proper. Right? So Vantage doesn't own the IP. It licenses it from the main Ubisoft corporate body.
Holy shit. This is a perfect example of how to make the much amount of money as you can.
And what this essentially gives those studios and stuff is near full creative control. A situation where their Paris-based board would have the final say in things, but where, for the most part, Vantage could just do whatever it needed. Now, you may think, hang on, this is a bit weird. What does Ubisoft actually get out of this? Security.
Money.
The funds cleared almost all of the debt that they were carrying, and the new terms meant that Ubisoft's 3 biggest IPs could no longer be sold in any form of hostile takeover, because now Tencent would be a built-in partner and owner and could block any acquisition plays. And what all of this really bought is what the Gilmos needed most. Time. They have 2 years to make Ubisoft profitable again. Let's talk about the beans. So, fiscal year 24-25 ended in a loss. Sales were down 20%, and they didn't expect full profitability yet, but they say they felt safe. They basically looked at the success of Shadows, and they announced that all their games would now be required to hit the same level of polish, even if it meant delays. Their next quarterly update was essentially more of the same, though it did include an apology to the harassment and abuse victims of 3 recently convicted Ubisoft executives. Yes, actually convicted in court, not
Yeah, we went through this a while back. Holy fuck, that was wild.
So, serious enough stuff. Now, July saw Ubisoft double down on this new approach. Earlier on in the year, they had licensed Prince of Persia to the Dead Cells developer to basically do a 2D roguelike. In July, they went even further. They licensed Heroes of Might and Magic to a small indie and then partnered with Hooded Horse to publish it. You may know Hooded Horse and the likes of Manor Lords and, honestly, a string of bangers. It's a smart move. I mean, why wouldn't Ubisoft want to benefit from Hooded Horse's beloved reputation with genre fans? That will absolutely make people more willing to buy stuff. But then, they actually went one step further. They weren't doing anything with Grow Home, Cold Fear, I Am Alive, or Child of Eden. So why not just sell them to someone who would do something with them? That someone ended up being Atari. Atari bought the rights and started working on modernized ports of those games. Basically, those IPs don't fit the new Ubisoft model, especially not as Vantage Studios was taking shape, which at the very least, is a silver lining in today's story. But with that said, I think it's now time we properly talk about Vantage Studios. We found out about the leadership of Vantage Studios in a rather funny softball interview with Yves Gilmo. And in that, we found out the new leaders include Charlie Gilmo, his son, who has returned after 4 long years of wandering the deserts of the mobile games and Web3 game spaces. That was, of course, all after he left Ubisoft initially over disgrace at Elite Squad, a mobile game that sort of used the whole Resistance Fist thing. There's big old controversy with that. But the thing we also learned is that he's in the family, but he's not actually at the top, because the real head honcho is veteran developer Christophe, and he has been framed as the other figurehead. Now, he's the guy who ran Ubisoft Montreal during Valhalla's release, and then ran all of Ubisoft America since
This is some fucking mess.
23. So, a safe pair of hands. Admittedly, sort of pair of pseudo-Gilmo hands, because he's also Yves' cousin. Yes, so it's all quite a family matter. Now, the structure under these two fellas.
I don't get how the fuck this is allowed. I get it being a family business, but damn, this is family through and through.
Be a bit different. And not just the structure of leadership, but also how these studios and companies would be ran. What they basically said is that Vantage was a creative house, running each IP without red tape, and that it would be the first of many, and that Ubisoft planned to roll out this new structure of creative houses built around IPs company-wide. Now, at the time, we wondered, will this mean that creative leadership will lose out to business leadership? And the update is that the cracks have appeared to show within just a few months. A leak made to GameFile revealed that the Paris leadership group had actually shut down an Assassin's Creed game set after the American Civil War in July 2024, suggesting it would be too political in a country too unstable.
What the fuck? I mean, that would be actually very different from what they've done before. Holy shit, fucking pussies.
The interference has continued into 2025. Remember the Saudi-backed DLC for AC Mirage? Turns out that was real. It was funded by a Saudi historical society with government ties. Now, this DLC and expansion content got made because someone else was footing the bill, and the Gilmos were happy enough to work with anyone who would play along and, give them money. What will the Saudis buy next? I don't know. Place your bets in the comments. Now, not everyone...
Think if you have that much control, though. Just, okay. I have money. What DLC do I want for one game? I mean, okay. Let me buy... Hey, I have money. Make that kind of DLC. That is fucking... Hey, that would be fucking epic.
Was thrilled by all of this change. I'm afraid I'm going to butcher his name, but Mark Alexis Coates, something like that. The man who actually delivered Shadows and architected the franchise's future within the whole Animus, an Assassin's Creed hub spanning all Assassin's Creeds that they've been talking about in some way or shape for a few years now. He's a pretty important dude, but he left the company after 20 years of service. A company-wide email said he had, quote, chosen to pursue a new path, but an internal note seen by IGN blamed, quote, his own expectations and priorities about franchise development under Vantage. He then struck back on LinkedIn, saying that Ubisoft had, quote, asked him to step aside when they put Assassin's Creed under new management. He simply chose not to accept what he saw as a lesser position. So this is at least one example of the whole creative house's plan with Vantage, leading to a fairly well-tenured, experienced person leaving, and leaving in a way where they're publicly willing to have spats with their former employer. And as we would continue to see, and as the rest of the company feared, the new structure cared about games. Only the games. Not really the people making them, who are kind of important if you want to get the game actually made. So more layoffs hit Red Links and Stockholm in October. Massive Entertainment then paid the price for Outlaws and Avatar underperforming, even as Division 3 development got underway. But all eyes were on the next financial report, because
Avatar did good. What the fuck are they doing?
Is the report that would have the first real data on whether Shadows had actually saved the company, or whether it had suffered a Monster Hunter-style slump in sales after launch. After a brief panic when the earnings call was delayed by a month, Ubisoft revealed things were actually pretty okay. Turns out Division 2 and Shadows both overperformed expectations. Division 2 is a game I completely...
Oh, that is one thing though. Expectations. Fuck, I mean, Ubisoft has big expectations when it comes to the games. If they don't meet their expectation, it's sold shit. And then they lay people off. Fucking
forgotten about, but
Ubisoft is not who they used to be. They're not like as big as they once was. Realize it and set low expectations and actually appreciate the ones who work for you.
Apparently it has actually overperformed, and as much as I know some people would say, why don't they simply lie? If you do that in the earnings report, you get in a lot of trouble from a lot of people with a lot of government power. That's the sort of thing Ubisoft couldn't squirm its way out of. Now, the Saudi DLC pushed Mirage to 10 million lifetime players, and the delay in their earnings call actually came down to concerns about how their debt was calculated against loans. But since the Tencent deal had closed the very same day, they basically cleared that up instantly. The layoffs meant far lower costs against the revenue.
I mean, they have gone just, okay, this is the plan. And they executed, and voila!
That they were generating, and this all meant that, for the first time since 2020, Ubisoft could look to the future. Man, I remember the day that it all changed. I remember covering the colossal disappointment of Ghost Recon Breakpoint and the subsequent delays that happened across everything that Ubisoft did that just set them up for years upon years of chaos. It now seems some of that mess is cleared up. As for the future, well, Prince of Persia and a leaked Assassin's Creed Black Flag remaster are the only premium games that will come before June of 2026, and neither of them will return the company to profitability. The big games.
Okay, I mean, Valley of Memory is released, From Ashes is released, 6 Mobile is coming out, Division Mobile is coming out. So the big announced title that is coming out is a remake of Sands of Time. Wow. Wow. That's not much.
That can do that sort of thing will come later, and that means they'll still have to keep their investors happy, which is why Eve was more than happy to call generative AI, quote, as big a revolution for our industry as the shift to 3D. You know, just like has been said for NFTs, Scalar, or Toys to Life. It's Ubisoft. They'll say words like that and jump on any form of bandwagon they can find just to look good for the shareholders. But as they're still left having to impress the market, it will be the future as the Gilmos remain in charge, which is ultimately what the Tencent deal has let them do. And they will do that even as they risk leaving their competitors, their IP, and their staff behind. We will have to see how it goes. We will have to see what the next big Assassin's Creed is, but that is the story of Ubisoft. Wow. You're now up to date. I hope you enjoyed it. And, well, you want to see what's come next with Valve? Because, man, they are cooking. But a lot of people certainly want to take a chunk out of them. Well, you can learn about that in this next video.
Holy shit. Ubisoft. They never, like, I thought, okay, now they can't surprise me. But holy hell, they still surprise me how they can just sneak their way, sneak around all the laws, all the shit, and come out, maybe not on top, but high up. I hope that 26 and 27 will give us good games, and that soon they will start to appreciate us, consumers, and the ones that make the games, and think about quality instead of quantity. It's better with a delay than fucking release a game that you need to fix in the first 6 months.